All right, we are going to be finding zeros of quadratic equations. What you need to know, x-intercepts are sometimes called zeros because the output or the y value equals 0. All right, so key thing here is x-intercepts. What they're saying is x-intercepts is the same, is another terminology that we use for zeros. All right, so x-intercepts, zeros, solutions are just all mean the same thing. All right, they all mean the same thing. So you have to, so depending on the equation or depending on the situation or the content, it'll determine which terminology to use. But they all mean the same thing. All right, to change a quadratic from standard to intercept form, factor it. All right, and we were graphing intercept forms. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to write the equation in intercept form and then give the zeros of the function. All right, so in order to do that, it says we have to factor. That means we got to factor into this. All right, so this is a trinomial or 3 terms. There's no GCF, so we use the AC method, which states factors of 25, and I want the sum that will give me 10. So the factors of 25 are 1 and 25, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5. Now we're adding, so that gives me 26. This gives me 10, and I want 10. So therefore it's 5, 5. So we do x and x, 5 and 5. Now we're adding, so that means both signs will be the same. And here they're both going to be positive. So here we have the x-intercept form. All right, by x-intercept form, that means my graph is going to cross that negative 5, 0, and they happen to be the same. Okay, so if I would graph this, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5, 0 is 1. Okay, so this is where, that's my x-intercept. All right, so that's where it crosses on the x-axis, on the x-axis, x-intercept. Well, it also means that if I plug negative 5 in for x, you're going to get 0. So in other words, if I have x squared plus 10x plus 25, I set that equal to 0 and solve. Well, to solve it, remember, we got to factor it. Well, we know what the factor is. Since they're both the same, I can just solve for 1, and I get x is equal to negative 5. So in this problem, you'll say your x-intercept, since there's only 1 in this case, is 5. My solution is 5. And my 0 of the function is 5. All right? They all mean the same way, just depending on how they want to talk about it. Okay. Let's look at another example. So I want to find the zeros of the function, but before I do that, I got to put it in intercept form. So in other words, I got to factor it into that form. Well, there's 2 terms, so that means I have to use difference of squares. So this is x times x. This is 1 times 1 is a difference. So 1 the x is here, here, 1 and 1. And remember, make positive and negative. So here is the x-intercept form. This is the x-intercept form. What that tells me, my graph will cross the x-intercept at the x-axis at negative 1, 0 and positive 1, 0. So if I would graph this, negative 1, 0, 1, 0. That's where well, you can't see it. Right, again, negative 1, 0 and 1, 0. That's where the graph crosses the x-axis. Right? So so we can continue to find the vertex and then continue to graph it. We don't need to. I just want to show you the relationship between the x-intercepts and zeros. Well, that means my solution is 1 and -1. Okay? Or my answer. In other words, if I have if I had x squared minus 1 is equal to 0, I would get x plus 1. Remember, we factor it. X minus 1. We set each one equal to 0. And then solve. And there are my two solutions. Right? So the zeros of the function are -1 and 1. So solution is the same thing as zeros. Right? They mean the same thing. So if I want the zeros of the function, that means I want the solution. In other words, if this was equal to 0, what would x equal to? All right? So in order to do that, you put it in intercept form. All right? Let's look at one more example. All right, so the same thing here. So we have a GCF, so that means I can factor out of, let's see, I got 2, 2, 24, so I get 1, 1, and 12. So my GCF is 2, so we get x squared minus x minus 12. All right, so I get 2, I want to factor this. So factors are 12 because there's 3 terms, so it's the AC method. So what are the factors of 12 that if I subtract, I get 1? So the factors are 1 and 12, let's see, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Or if I subtract, I get this one, I get 11, I get 4, I get 1. So those are the factors I want. So it'd be x and x, 3 and 4. Now I'm subtracting, so that means one of these has to be positive, the other one has to be negative. This tells me that the larger number has to be the negative. All right, so there is my x-intercept form. So therefore, my zeros of the function are -3 and +4 are my zeros. Or my solutions. In other words, x is equal to -3, x is equal to 4. Okay, so that is the relationship between taking a quadratic and factoring it is like taking the intercept form. Right? So they're all interrelated.